Good day, poker peeps. This is Sky with Smart Poker Study. In today's video, we're going to use Flopzilla Pro and do a little work to build our understanding of range versus range on various flops. Flopzilla Pro over here, we're going to be using our cheat sheet ranges, which you can find through a link in the description down below. It's a free PDF called Pre-Flop Ranges Cheat Sheets. Click on that, download them, save them into Flopzilla Pro. Makes your hand reading and hand analysis so much quicker when you have the saved ranges. Now, here's a very important idea. You're going to miss the flop very often. Let's imagine you play a 20% raising first in range, maybe in the cutoff right here. You hit top pair or better, and the best draws 34% of the time. 1 out of 3. Let's ignore the best draws. Top pair or better 28% of the time, less than 1 out of 3. That means that you're going to hit the flop 72% of the time with something weaker than top pair or some kind of a draw. Basically, you're going to have to bluff a lot. So you got to ask yourself, and you've got to learn what flops are great for bluffing. Here's the way that I teach my students to analyze these various spots and look at different flops with Flopzilla Pro. First, go ahead, enter your range or hand and their range. So let's pull up a hand right now. We've got ace-king offsuit in the cutoff. Fold. We open raise, fold, and a call out of the small blind, and then a fold right here. So our range first off, we're going to give us this 20% range. And currently, ace-king offsuit is right at the top of that range. Let's open up the multiplayer mode because you've got to put their range in. So when it comes to assigning a range, you got to think about your opponent. Okay, 25-17 calls 19% of the time total. You might think, whoa, he's got a wide range. But if we open up in the Smart HUD, the positional pop-up, we can see call 2-bet in the small blind is actually 0. 0 out of 7 opportunities. This guy does not like to give position to his opponents right here. So let's go ahead and give him the tightest calling range that we have, the 10% call 2-bet range. Now, once you enter in your range or your hand, like we could clear this and specifically just enter ace-king offsuit. After that, you always want to look at the pre-flop equity. Start to build that understanding, that intuitive understanding of your range's equity versus theirs. Pre-flop, before the flop hits, right? We're about a 50-50 chop. He's slightly ahead, about 2% right here. But we do have the strongest hands potentially in our range, as well as we have position on our opponent. If we go back to the hand, cutoff, small blind right there. We got some things going for us. Now, enter in the actual flop that hits. So deuce 9-5, deuce of clubs, 9 of diamonds, 5 of hearts. So on this board, excuse me, on this board, our range, the 20% open raising range, we hit top pair or better and no open enders because obviously we don't have the 3-4 in our cutoff open raising range for an open ender. Top pair or better 23% of the time. Let's take a look at our opponent though on this 9-high board. He hits top pair or better only 17% of the time. That's great for us. If he hits showdown worthy pairs only 17%, that means he misses 83% of the time. A really good opportunity for us to bluff, given that we have absolutely nothing. It's a good opportunity for us to bluff and just take it down. Also kind of helping us out here, this is a pretty flop honest player. He only c-bets 25%, 1 out of 4, so probably only with top pair or better. He folds 80% of the time versus c-bets. That means that he loves folding, and there's not a good, or he doesn't hit the flop extremely well. Remember, only 17% of the time. This is probably going to be a very easy c-bet bluff. He checks, we throw out a little over half pot, and he folds. Awesome. Take this down in a spot where the board completely misses his range, or vice versa. His range completely misses the board, and he just loves folding. Plus, he's out of position. Everything we had going for us made this hand a super easy slam dunk c-bet bluff. Now, after entering that actual flop, let's do a little bit more analysis in this spot right here. We already figured out top pair or better open in a straight draw. Now, what if, let's start changing board cards to give us different ideas on how a different board might affect things slightly differently. Let's remove that deuce. Let's make it so there's potentially more draws in his range. Let's make it the 8 of clubs. So 9, 8, 5. Now on this board, okay, instead of 16%, he hit it 13% more often because he's got some open-ended straight draws right here that added a bit of equity. And he still has top pair or better quite often, but 29% hitting this board. Oh, interesting. He actually has some gut shots plus pairs. Pocket 7s and pocket 6s. They were just under pairs before, but he's definitely not folding these hands, right? So he's going to continue versus our C-bet, assuming he can stay in with the open-enders and the gut shot plus a pair 30% of the time. So a little bit less likely that we can get him to fold. Just a little bit here. Let's switch this board one more time. What if, instead of the 8, it was still a 9 and a 5, but let's take a look at his range. He's got plenty of jacks in his range, right? What if it was a jack high board? Still rainbow, but jack high. Now he has top pairs. Ace jack, king jack, queen jack, top set as well, and ace jack offsuit here. Okay, still just 25% of the time. And I guess one of the big reasons for that is he doesn't have those gut shot plus pairs anymore because we went from the 8 up to the jack right here. But he hits 25%. His sets, super strong. He's got all the sets possible in his range. But still, if he can fold anything non-top pair and some of the weakest draws, like a gut shot draw, awesome. We can get him to fold 75% of the time on this board. Loving that. So another way that you can analyze two ranges on various flops is take a list of actual flops seen. Now, this is just a screenshot from Poker Tracker 4, various flops that were dealt in quite a few different hands, right? Let's enter a flop that we haven't seen yet. Queen, 9, 7 of hearts. Let's take a look at us first, because we have a lot of suited hands in our range and quite a lot of offsuit hands in our range. Queen, 9, 7 of hearts. So if this board hits, the equities are just about the same. It was 49.51 before. He went up a tiny bit in equity. From pre-flop to the flop. Now, on the Queen 9-7, we actually hit any flush draw, top pair or better, any flush draw, any open-enders, 56% of the time. That's pretty good for us, right? This could be a very scary board from his perspective because of all that suited stuff out there, especially if he doesn't have a heart himself. Let's look at his range. He hits top pair or better, plus those flush draws, even the weakest flush draws right there. Ooh, 63% of the time. He hits it a little bit better than us. Now, if we think a C-bet can get him to fold maybe those weak flush draws and even open-enders on that board, okay, 60% of the time, a C-bet can get him to fold 40% of the time on this board. Let's choose another completely different board. Ace of diamonds, king of spades, 8 of spades. We got a couple of ace kings. We got a couple of big cards, an ace and a king. He doesn't have ace king in his range, but he does have one king or two kings at least, and some aces. In his range hits top pair or better, plus the open-ended straight draw or better, 35%. Our range, 46%. This range interacts with us so much better. If this was our actual hand, yeah, we just hit 2 pair on the flop. But if we just look at our range, yeah, we've got tons of top pair hands right here. Flush draws as well, because we have all this suited stuff. A lot of this suited stuff, top pair plus the flush draw as well. Yeah, this range interacts really well with us. He should be slightly scared and capable of folding a good portion of his range on this kind of board, especially given how ace heavy it is. He could probably fold most of these pocket pairs other than pocket 8s because of that ace king on the board. Good opportunity for us to bluff here. Now then, in Flopzilla Pro, you've got the random button down here. So let's just clear the range. Back to the start. A random flop. Oh, Jack 10-8. Pretty wet board. Not a flush draw possible right here. But if we look at it, we hit 58% of the time. Top pair and open-enders. Them. Ooh, 64%. Wow, this range really works pretty well with them. Going to be a little bit harder for us to bluff them. What if, instead of the 8 of clubs, it was the 8 of hearts, putting potential flush draws out there? Well, they hit 64% of the time, still greater than 60. Us over here, 61%, about the same between the two of us. Now, with an ace and a king, 2 over cards that we actually have right here, plus a gut shot, I'm thinking I'm C-betting right here just about 100% of the time, especially given that he folds so darn much. He's a pretty flop-honest player. Now, You can use a list of board types as well. In my Flopzilla Pro course, I have a list of 11 different boards. The chicken boards, the ace high and dry, the 2-up, 1-down board, all that kind of stuff. 11 boards that you can work through various range versus range. Put in those boards. It's really going to help you develop that understanding of range and flop interaction. Of course, to get the course, go to the link in the description down below or smartpokerstudy.com/Flopzilla Pro course. Almost 4 hours of video instruction, 19-page workbook plus answers, more additional downloads for additional studies to really build that range and board understanding, and then 7 bonuses with 1¼ hours of extra instruction. Now, last thing, take action. Find hands in your own database where you missed the flop. Do the work that we did in Flopzilla Pro. Enter your range or your hand and their range. Take as much information into account when you're building your opponent's range. Determine why they hit so frequently or infrequently, depending on the situation, and then determine good and bad flops for bluffing with your hand or range versus their range right there. And do this work over and over for the next week, maybe 10 or 20 minutes a day.